guys, happy Thursday. I woke up this morning and I thought, is it Wednesday? And I'm like, no, already did that. So here we are at the 22nd. The month is flying. And of course, on everybody's mind, I want to have an awesome year, right? I want to have an awesome year. And if you're like me, you're thinking, I don't actually need to work harder. I'm already working really hard. So how do I 10x my business without completely exhausting myself? So I'm Deputy Grote, CEO and co-founder of Forward Coaching, and I have a great guest today that we'll introduce in just a moment. But you know, as I think about all of the technology and tools and things we have at our disposal today, it kind of takes me back to when I first got into real estate, and some of you are with me on this. I almost hate to admit it, we did not have computers on our desk, right? We did not have CRMs to help us manage our clients. It was a card file box. And yeah, while we managed and we got by, when I think of technology and I think of 10xing your business, I think, well, if we can lean in to some of the cool tools and resources, then really technology can be the leverage that helps us 10x our business, helps us not lose those important relationships, those important leads. And so that's why I invited a guest today, Bob Stewart. Bob, let's pop your bio up. So I was telling Bob before we got on that I know a lot of people that are out there in the technology world. I know owners of different CRM companies and trainers, and some of them are kind of boring because they're so techy. But Bob is one that I consider kind of the fun techie guy. So Bob's been in the real estate industry since 2002. However, he is the child of a realtor. So he has a real estate family. He also co-founded and was responsible for managing operations for a 150 agent real estate company and worked to create the very first online referral networks, has taught thousands of agents the intricacies of online marketing and really how to engage online leads, turn them into clients, close transactions, how to leverage their sphere, how to follow up, how to auto nurture, you name it, Bob teaches it. Now you're going to see on the wall behind him the name Brivity. So Bob, what is your title at Brivity officially? Do you have one?
Oh, Debbie, I think my business cards say like Vice President of Success and Training, something
Okay,
like
good.
that.
So we'll call you the VP. So
Okay.
VP-ish of Brivity. Now, I do want you guys to know something though. Today is not intended to be a sales pitch or commercial for Brivity. But Bob is going to share with you instead, looking at a CRM, your CRM, one you might be considering purchasing. Maybe you'll decide you want to look at Brivity. Maybe you have Brivity and you're just not utilizing it. So what he's going to talk about today really applies in any business and to any CRM potentially that you might have already purchased. So this is not a commercial. This is a favor, me grabbing my friend Bob and saying, help us 10x the business by using some of the cool things that we maybe already have and we just don't know how to use them. So Bob, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get even out of the way. I'm going to hang out here, but I'm going to go off camera so I don't distract everyone because I know nothing about what you're talking about.
I don't believe that for a second, but okay.
That's why I brought the expert. And guys, please feel free, type your questions in the chat box as we go. Bob, you know what? You can stop along the way or save them till the end, whatever works better for you. All right.
Sounds good, Debbie. Thank you. So back in 2003, we launched a brokerage here in Western Washington. I live in the Seattle area. And in 2004, we did about 250 million in sales from internet leads, which in 2004 was pretty crazy. Over my career, what I've realized and what we've figured out as a group, especially here in the last 10 years at Brivity and working with Ben Kinney, one of my partners, we figured out business it comes from a lot of places, you guys. And you inside of your own database likely have Sphere. You likely have some leads you've gotten from open houses. You've likely over the years, or I hope you have prospected. Maybe that's canceled expireds or FISBOs, or maybe sometimes you just circle prospect around one of your open houses. You likely, if you've been in this game long enough, somebody's convinced you to buy some internet leads. Now, I don't know how well that went for you. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, but you've got leads that have come in from your listing. Albert, maybe you hired an ISA or you ran an radio ad at some point, or Ashley, these are what we would consider kind of the 6 main pillars of business. And this is actually what's inside your database. Your database is not full of a bunch of internet leads, or at least I hope it's not exclusively full of internet leads. It's likely, especially if you've been in this business for any amount of time, that you've got a variety of these things in your database. And even if you just showed up in real estate yesterday, Debbie, we'd expect that, at least in our world, they've got some Sphere. They bring Sphere to the table to get started in real estate. So you guys all have at least one component of this, and many of you have multiple components of this. So what I want to talk about today is, how do we get the business once it's in the database from these people? Now, there's a high likelihood, especially if you guys are forward coaching clients, that you have some pretty nice databases. And it's probable, I don't know for sure, because Ashley, I haven't seen inside of your database, or Christina, I don't know exactly how many people you have, but it's highly likely that you have enough business already sitting in your database. So really quick, what I want everybody to do is pull out your phone for just a second, and we're going to pull up the calculator on your phone, because I want you guys, before we leave here in the next 5 minutes, to understand exactly how much business lives in my database. Because a lot of agents get up every day, Christy, and they think, I need to find another lead. I need to do another open house. I need to call another cancel expired. I need to buy another internet lead. The reality is, most of you in here probably have enough in your database today to get your goals for 2026. Now, it's January. She mentioned it's the 22nd. Debbie said it's the 22nd. We're almost through the first month in 2026. Hopefully you guys have all set goals. If you guys are forward coaching clients, I would be shocked if you don't have a goal and probably a plan to get to that goal. But I want you to understand right now how much is in this database. So we're going to do a little bit of math. So pull out your phone. I mean, 15% of you are probably already on this thing. You're distracted by it. You've been on it the whole time we've been on the call here. But pull it out. Okay. And I want you to type in there, how many contacts do you have in your database? Now, if you're on a team, you could do, there's a couple ways you could do this. You could say, well, I'm just going to do the people assigned to me. Or maybe I'd include all the people that are in my team's pond. If I had access to a 2,000 person pond, those are people that I might potentially get business from today. If I'm the business owner, Jim Mahaffey, go do how many contacts are in the entire database, right? This is going to tell you, Jim, how many your team could get their hands on this year if we never added another lead. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that number. Let's say my database has 1,000 in it, and that's not the math on the page here, but I'm going to do 1,000 on my calculator. Okay. Now you got to figure out what's the home ownership rate in the main county you sell real estate in. So let's say I sell in Whatcom County. You can literally Google this, home ownership rate in Whatcom County. I think Whatcom County, Washington is like a 62.8% home ownership rate. I'm going to use 65% because that's kind of a national average. Okay. So for my example here, I'm going to multiply the 1,000 leads I have by the home ownership rate in my market. I have 650 homeowners statistically living in those 1,000 people. And then we have to figure out, well, if I got 650 homeowners, how often do they move on average? And the National Association of Realtors tells us they move every 13 years. So that as a percentage is 7.69%. But what I do is I just take my homeowners, I have 650, and I divide it by 13, because every year a 13th of them are going to move. And so in a 1,000-person database, there's 50 transactions. If I had a 10,000-person database, there are 500 transactions. So do me a favor. If you did that math, and there's enough of you on here, I hope somebody will play along with me. Report back to me how many transactions are going to exist in your database this year in 2026 based on the number of contacts that you have in that database as we sit here on January 22nd, 2026. Do you have 1,000? If you have 1,000, it's going to be pretty close to my number. It's going to be about 50. If you got 2,000, it's going to be 100. If you've got 4,000, it's going to be 200. Albert says, I got over 100. Awesome. Albert has over 100. Who else wants to play along with me? Josephina, Julie, Karen, Lisa, Martha. I do this because I want to start us from a place where most of us are going to go, I don't actually need more leads this year. I got enough. By the way, if Debbie and my friend Ben Kinney was in the room with us, and I've done this, Kat says she has over 200. Awesome. Lots of opportunities sitting in there, Kat, today. We're going to talk about what we need to do to go get that business. Okay. But when Ben's in the room, Kat, he'll scream from the back, Chuck, there's two sides on all of those. So Albert, if you have 100, that's 100 transactions. There's two sides. There's 200 sides that live in your database. Kat has over 200. She has over 400 sides. Nadine has 415 people in her database. Nadine, I'm just going to guess, Nadine's database is about 8,500 people, somewhere between 8,000 and 8,500. Now, the real question, though, is how do I get it? Like, what's the most important thing I can do in here to get the business? And here's why we know the answer to this, Robert. Robert says he's got enough to exceed his goal. I'd bet it's by a nice little factor, Robert. Here's why we know the answers that I'm about to lay out for you guys about what levers you need to pull in the database to go get the business. About 10 years ago, Ben Kinney, our founder here at Brevity in Place, he came to a group of us, or one of our co-founders, sorry, don't want to short Chris Suarez, our other really smart co-founder. Ben came to a group of us and he said, I want you guys to figure out for me, Mel, why does one agent out there have 1,000 leads in their database and they do 15 deals every year, and another agent has 1,000 and they do 50? And there's another agent out there that has 1,000 and they do 65. Why does one team have 10,000 leads and do 100 transactions and another team has 10,000 leads and does 200 transactions? Like, it's the same amount of opportunity presented to those two teams with 10,000 leads. Why does one get more? Why does sometimes one get twice as much as the other business? So for 10 years, we've been studying this really deeply. And the people studying it are way smarter than me, you guys. Have you ever been in one of these offices where the people sit at their desk and there's like 4 computer monitors up and it looks like they're looking into the matrix? We have data people here at Brevity that are smart like that. We've studied this for 10 years. In Brevity, some of you guys have it, you know, we can see the leads come in. We've got lots of tools to help you generate them. By the way, same thing if you got Follow Up Boss or Boomtown, where the leads come in. And then you guys work it. So we watch people working the leads inside of Brevity. We can see what they do. We can see when they call or don't call. We can see when they text or email. We can see when they set them up on a listing alert or when they don't. And then we also have transaction management at Brevity. So we can watch that lead come in, get worked, eventually, hopefully become a transaction. And we can even watch where the money gets dispersed to the agent on the team. And so for 10 years, we've been studying, how do you get more of that business? I'll tell you guys right now, like whatever your number was, Nadine says it was 415. Nadine, what I want you to do then, I'll do it for Nadine. I'll act like her. I don't know Nadine at all. She might be like, whoa, that's way more than we did, or that's way less. Let's just say Nadine's team did, or Nadine did 80 transactions last year. Okay. But she knows after doing that math we just did, there's 415 in there. She pulled out about 19% of the business. Now, Nadine, I don't know what your number was, but that would have been actually pretty darn good. When we partner with teams at Place, and I get a chance to work with 450 of the top real estate teams in the United States as they partner with Place, the average extraction rate for a team out of their database is somewhere between 8 and 15%. And in Nadine's example that I totally made up, she was getting 19%. 8 and 15% extraction rates are what, by the way, when teams partner with Place, they're already doing 100, 200 transactions. They're already some of the best teams in a given market, and they're extracting fractions of the business. So, okay, you guys ready? I'm going to give you the very most important lever you can pull in your database. Awesome, Nadine. She included a Shark Tank, she said, which means if Nadine's got a big Shark Tank on her team, that means she probably has some room to hire a few agents this year to go in and start working that business. A lot of times our Shark Tank just means we got more leads in here than we are capable today of handling. Otherwise, those leads would be off with an agent and they'd be personally working them. Cool, Nadine. You got room for growth this year. That's fantastic. Okay, here it is, you guys. The very most important lever you can pull, and you got everybody sit down, get ready to be blown away, right? Is calling them, picking the phone up and calling them. Now, it's so important that we create a whole new phrase. We call it database turnover rate, and I'd like you guys to do this right now along with me, okay? Because we know by you guys, this is by long factor, as we've studied like hundreds of different scenarios and data points inside of databases. Calling your database is easily the most important. I'll talk about the second most important in a little bit, which is kind of funny, and it makes me think about Debbie talking about like when she got into real estate before we had computers. When I got into real estate, that computers were just becoming a thing. Like I literally got in the first year that in our area in Seattle there was listings on the internet. But for all that time, the top two things you need to get the business have not changed. It like back then, we needed to call and talk to people because we didn't have any other options. But all these years later, 24 years later since I've been here, with all the bells and whistles we have, market reports, listing alerts, AI, auto plans, drips, on and on and on, still the number one thing we need to do is call these people. So it's so important that we coin this database turnover rate. It essentially will tell you how long will it take you to call everybody in your database one time. How long will it take you to call everybody in your database once? Now, Nadine, here's how you figure it out, okay? And I want, Nancy says 42 days. What I want you guys to do right now, again, now you might not have the, go into your database. It's Brivity, go into Brivity, find your call report. If you're on Boomtown, pull up and I don't know where it is on Boomtown, but find that report that shows me in the last month, how many people have we called in here? And immediately some of you guys are going, oh, I don't really log things in my database. So you're not going to know this. You'll have no idea what this number is for you, but it's so important for us that we track it every single month for every agent and every team that we do business with at Place. Okay, so what does it mean? Well, if I had 10,000 leads in my database, and in the last month, last 30 days, let's call it, I'd called 1,000. It's going to take me 10 months to call them all once. Some of you guys, if you go do this right now, you will have database turnover rates of 22, of 30, of 35. You've got 10,000 leads and you call 400 a month. And when you do that math, you start to realize, oh, wow. I'm not even going to be able to talk to everybody this year, even once. I'm not even going to be able to call them once, let alone talk to them. We obsess over this because as for 10 years in studying the data, we know, Nadine, one time I set out and I was like, I want it to be true that if I just send way more text messages, I'll set more appointments. It's not true. I've set out to prove if I just have everybody on listing alerts versus not, I will set more appointments in my database. It's not true. The one thing that will, it's almost a direct correlation. By the way, if I made 5,000 calls, I'd have a database turnover rate of 2. Let me ask you guys a question. You all know the answer to this. Am I more likely to get the business out of my database if I call people once every 10 months or once every 2? Yeah, obviously, right? Hunter knows, Nancy knows, Nadine knows. You all know the right answer. Now, and here it is in the data. This is like our raw data from 450 teams that I pay attention to every single month to try to help them get more than 12% of the business living in their database. That blue line is their database turnover rate. By the way, even if you don't call through your database very often, you still get appointments out of your database. They call you sometimes, your past client does, or that sphere, that person that got referred to you. It's not like you never get appointments if you don't call your database. Some of you guys have been in business long enough, it calls you. But I guarantee you are missing business in there that doesn't call you. As the database turnover rate comes down, the number of appointments in red goes up. And guys, again, I study this every single month on 450 teams, but we've looked at this data on over 5,000 teams. And there is an indisputable fact. The more you call your database, the more likely you are to get the appointments that live in that database. Without question, okay? Here's an example of a lady that I've had the pleasure of coaching and watching for the last 4 years. Katie Centinella, this is representative of her third year in real estate where she did 52 transactions with a database of about 1,400 contacts. Now, if you ran the top, that number 2 is that math we did at the very beginning. She got 1,400. How many deals are in here? Well, Katie has about 67 transactions, given that Whatcom County, where she sells real estate in Western Washington, has a 62% home ownership rate. She did 52 of those 67 transactions, 77% of the business. I want you guys to go back. All of you guys right now, because you know what percentage you extracted, what would 77% of the business look like for you? It's likely more than you got your hands on. And for some of you guys, if you were able to do that, like you're thinking about retiring here pretty soon. Because you got a big old database and 77% of it would be like massive numbers. And you might not even be able to fathom doing that much business right now with the team you have. She calls these people. That's how she gets the business. It's the primary method anyway. I'll tell you right now as well. I don't think I have a slide. Yeah, here's our target, by the way. On the teams that I have the honor of coaching, we're shooting for 3 database turnover rate, a target of 3. Every 3 months we can call through that database. And if that's a quarter. Once a quarter, we want to call through that database. We want to be able to run a business where quarterly we're checking in with people. Some people get more frequent calls. There's people that I'm going to less frequently call. But on average, we need to have the capacity to move through our database once a quarter. It's almost impossible without a dialer. If you hand dial for prospecting, if you use this for your prospecting, and I can't see you guys right now. I love doing this in person because if I could see you, I guarantee one of the 150 of you guys that are on here would be on your phone right now. You'd be looking at your phone. You'd be so distracted by what's on that phone. You're not even paying attention to what I'm doing. And if I were in a room with 150 of you guys, it'd probably be 15 of you out there doing that. I bring this up because Katie is able to make, by the way, if you think about 1,100 calls into a business, that's about how many a day? 55 a day she makes into her business to make 1,100. She consistently shows up. She knows her number one job in real estate is to prospect and find business. And so every day, 20 days a month, Katie shows up to work and she calls about 55 people on average. She does it with a dialer. I hope the CRM you use has a dialer. Brivity does. So Katie gets on there. It's not a fancy triple line and it's a single line dialer, but she can load up 50 people and she can hit start and she can put this thing down because this thing is distracting. We've figured out the number one thing that I need to do in my business to be successful is call. And if you try to do it from here, the smartest people in the world have been hired to design this thing to distract you from making your next phone call. I don't know what your guys, Nadine, I don't know what yours does, but mine bings me all the time. It's like, hey, the stock market's down. Hey, you got a new Facebook message. Hey, there's new Nike shoes that just dropped. Hey, New Era just put out a new hat. This thing, every time I pick it up, is trying to make me not do my job. So you guys got to have a dialer. You have to. It's in our world, those 450 teams I talked to you guys about that I study their business every single month. about in a given month, about 200 agents from those teams will make 1,000 dials into their business. 0 of them do it on their phone. 100% of those individuals are using the leverage of a dialer. It's probably, given that the number one thing we can do is call, the most important weapon I need to have in my repertoire as a way to make calls at scale without being interrupted between each call by the smartest humans that have ever designed a device. Okay? All right. Target 3. All right, now I'm going to take you guys through some metrics in the database that we study and we score these things on our teams. They're so important that every month on our team and every week for our agents, we go, here's how you're doing against those things that we know as you do them better will lead to more business. And this is not rocket science, by the way. So I'll give you an example. One of the things, do we get to our new leads? Like literally, do we just call our new leads? There are some really gross statistics out in the real estate industry about how many new leads never get a phone call. It's crazy. Like as an industry, we've moved to these automations and triggers and plans and drips. And what we found is if we want to do business with people, we got to call them. So we go, how many leads did you bring in this month? Oh, you brought in 60 new leads? Awesome. How many of them did you call? And we just look at the percentage. Was it 100%? It should be. New leads, easy and obvious. Here's something we've learned along the way, though. A lead, not a referral, not a past client who's reaching back out to do business with you again. A lead, somebody you did not know before they came into your CRM. I'm going to include open house visitors in there. You didn't know them before they walked in the door. You knew them for about 15 seconds before they agreed to sign in and go into the CRM and get to walk through the house. But internet lead, open house lead, sign call, these things. On average, it will take you 11 phone calls to get them to engage with you for the very first time. Does anybody in here, like when you've made your 4th call to them, you're like, they're garbage. These leads stink. What we found is it takes an average of 11 calls to get them to answer the very first time. If you're not getting to that depth, it's likely because you're hand dialing, you don't use a dialer. It's likely because you don't have a rhythm or a routine. You're not showing up consistently in your business. You show up once every 2 weeks when you're like, I don't really have any business, so I need to find some business, and you go in there. But for the last 2 weeks, those new leads that have come in have just sat in there. Okay? Here's another one. We track and study this on every single. By the way, if you're a Brivity client, we lay out this routine. It's called the Brivity Daily Routine, and you can just go into Brivity, and there's this document that lays it out and says, do this first, call your new leads, do this next, go hit your website, do this next, do this. And we just walk you right down. But what we're looking at is what percentage of your website visitors over the last 30 days have you attempted to call? You want to, this is crazy, Debbie. In our world, across all of Brivity, only about 30% of the website visitors that show up get a phone call. Now, in our place world, we're a little bit better at it, right? We get to about 55% of the website visitors, but there are some individual agents and teams that they get to everybody. Because if you had a store, Nadine, and the whole point of the store was to get people to browse around and look for something they might like, I would say hi to them when they came into my store. I think all you guys would too. We let these people come and go from our website, and if we're waiting for them to tell us, hey, I want to go see the thing, you're doing it wrong. You need to reach out and call them. But that's obvious. You guys knew that already. By the way, sometimes people do things on our site that are even more important. They weren't just on there looking at a property. Sometimes they looked at a property for the 3rd time. Hunter, when my wife and I bought an investment property recently, and when my agent sent it to me, or it came to me, right? I got it in my email and I clicked on it. I was like, ooh, I kind of like this. And my wife and I both work at home. And so about an hour later, when I heard her done with her call upstairs, I took it up to her and I pulled it up again. And I'm like, honey, what do you think of this one? And she was like, that shoreline's kind of gross. I couldn't see swimming in there. And so I went back down and I YouTubed, like, what do you do to fix a shoreline? How do you make a shoreline nice? Like, can I put rocks on a shoreline in Mason County, Washington. Like I'm doing all this research, and after about a half hour, I'm like, I think I could do this, you guys. I think I could make this swim area nice. I pulled the property back up again to kind of daydream about what it would look. My third look at that property, I was actively thinking about my wife and I going to take a look at it. You need to have some mechanism by which you get notified when people are taking deeper action on your website. And when they do take deeper action, go call them right away. We have a thing called market reports in our world. I hope you guys have something similar that you send to people that keeps them updated about what's happening around where they live. Maybe you use Fellow to do this. Maybe you use HomeBot. If you don't do anything with your database, they're getting this information from Zillow. Ooh, my neighbor's house just sold. What did it sell for? They go to Zillow. They end up as a lead at some other agent in your town. So for us, when we send them these home valuation reports that show them what's active and pending and sold around them, we just want to make sure they get called when they engage them. And so we study every month what percentage of people showed an interest in what was happening around where they live in real estate. And when they were peeking over the fence to look at what their neighbor's house sold for, did we meet them with a phone call? Super simple. What percentage of them did we meet with a phone call? By the way, what we've studied, our market report viewers are 3 times as likely to list their home in the next 12 months as the average consumer. About 19% of your market report viewers will list their home in the next 12 months. That means if you have a database where 50 people this month were looking at their market reports, 10 of those people are going to list their home in the next 12 months. I had a chance to interview my friend Nikki Miller earlier, and she was talking about how like you guys always get told to just work more, work harder, make more phone calls, do more prospecting. But the reality is I don't need to work more. I need to be smarter about the call I make. So if I could call anybody in the database and they are, any homeowner in my database, there's a 7% chance they're going to list this year. I'd rather call people that there's a 20% chance they're going to list. I'm 3 times more likely to run into a listing appointment calling this group than I am calling anybody. Here's something crazy. Hot leads. You guys, I've never heard an agent tell me, yeah, when I put them into that ultimate status in my database, hot, let's call it. That's what we call it at Brivity. You might call it something different. But when I put them in there, that's when I stop working them. Nobody ever says that. Every agent in the history of ever, Cat, when I get in their database and I'm like, why do you have all these hot leads in here that look like they haven't been followed up with in 2 months? To a lead, they can go, oh, well, that person I talked to 3 days ago, that person I talked to a month ago, that person I talked to 2 weeks ago, and they're keeping it all in their head. If you're using your head to manage your business, you will hit a ceiling, and it's likely to be at about 8 to 10 transactions. You might be a little bit smarter than the average person, and your ceiling's 15, but you will hit that ceiling year over year over year. So most people just manage their hot leads in their head. Here's what we found simply by logging communication weekly with my hot lead, because our data suggests that the best way to take a hot lead, turn them into an appointment, and ultimately a pending transaction is to call them once a week. We have definitions around our statuses. So like a hot lead means somebody we think might buy or sell in the next 90 days. But Mary Lynn, I guarantee if you had somebody in a 1031 exchange scenario, they had to buy a property and they had to identify the property in 45 days. You wouldn't let them go a month without talking to them. But some of us let our hot lead that we kind of think might buy or sell in the next 90 days go a whole month without talking to them. Our data says call them once a week. And so we just track in our database how many are getting called once a week. And here's something crazy. I've sat with all these teams. They go, nope, I'm talking. I know it doesn't look like I'm talking to them, but I am. Teams that simply log the activity will find twice as many appointments kind of per hot lead as teams that say they did the activity. So I don't know how to square that up other than I think sometimes you guys put stuff in hot and something hotter comes along and you forget about the first one you put in there. By the way, we've got this all mapped out on Brivity in a very easy way for you to follow. We can literally click a link and it'll show you all your website visitors that haven't had a call from you. All your hot leads that are sitting there stale at a week. All your nurtures to us are people that are 3 to 12 months out. They're not doing anything immediately or soon. They told us they're going to wait till after the summertime when the kids get out of school. They're going to get their son off to college. And in October, they're really going to start thinking about moving down to Arizona. So I'm like, cool. I got to follow up with them once a month. This is probably the hardest bucket because Michael goes, I'm not going to follow up with once a month. They're going to move in October. I'm just going to time it. I'm going to show up in August. But what we've found, Michael, is the agent that shows up once a month between now and October will have a massive advantage on you who tries to time it and just show up in August. I will have spent 6 to 8 months providing value and building a relationship with that person. You're just trying to time it for a sale. What percentage of your nurturers are hearing from you consistently every 30 days is what the data shows is the way to follow up with somebody that's told you, I'm not moving real soon, but this year it's going to happen for us. Yeah, Nadine, they do appreciate the follow-up, and don't think because they don't answer that you're not getting credit for it either, right? You are. They saw the missed call from Nadine. They're just not ready, right? By the way, I think the best way to follow up in that scenario is call them. They don't answer. Text them really quick. Don't leave a message. Text them that thing. Hey, just missed you. Wanted to make sure you guys didn't need anything from me. Just checking in. Or maybe I've got something of value. Hey, wanted to make a quick comment about what we're seeing with the interest rates right now. Or, hey, my lender was letting me know about a new loan program. I know you guys aren't doing anything until October, but watch. These are everybody else. My nurture and my hots are the people who are going to do business with me in 2026, especially as we sit here right now in January. My watches is all the rest of them. And we just want to get to them every 90 days. It's why we have a target on our database turnover rate of every 3 months, every 90 days. Because the study data says the best way to take somebody that says they're not doing anything this year is to call them once a quarter. Because what's going to happen this year, Monica, is we're going to run into some people calling them once a quarter who go, you know what? We're no longer a year or more out. We're actually thinking about doing it at the start of 2027. Cool. They become a nurture and we keep moving them up the funnel, but we're calling them at prescribed intervals based on studying 10 years of data of how do I get this business. Past clients every 90 days. Real estate has some of the grossest past client statistics in all the industries, right? I don't know what it was this year. 26% of our past clients actually do business with us the next time they buy or sell. When 90% of them said when they bought with us that they loved the job we did and they would refer or use us again, but only 26% do. Why? It's because many of us don't check in with them once a quarter. And then our unqualifieds, we're just constantly pounding through. Now, if I want to have people on my website, I've got to have a drip mechanism to drive them there. That's listing alerts for us. In our world, every single buyer lead, no matter what, gets a listing alert. And look, we take a very active approach to our database, right? Our belief is do nothing, get nothing. Do something, get something. Now, sometimes when you do something, like if you had 100 old leads, I would just tell you, go get them all on a listing alert. And you're like, yeah, but I don't even know when these leads came in. I don't know where they were looking. And I'm like, where do you sell real estate? And you're like, I sell it in Bellingham, Washington. I'm like, just Bellingham? You're like, no, I sell it in Linden and Blaine. And I'm like, so the whole county? You're like, yeah, I sell the whole county. I'm like, good. All those old 100 leads, start sending them listings in Whatcom County between 300,000 and 1.2 million. Just do it. Because right now they're getting nothing. So give them something. By the way, if you give 100 people something, Nadine, every single time one of those people does not appreciate the something and they'll scream at you in all caps in the email they send back to you. Where did you get my email? Lose it. I'm going to tell on you to somebody, right? And Nadine hopefully doesn't go, oh my gosh, I should take all those other ones off too because they're probably mad at me too. No, that one guy's a jerk. We're going to do something for the others, and the vast majority of them are going to appreciate it. If they don't, they can unsubscribe. And that's what most normal people will do. Every once in a while, you'll get a weirdo that will scream at you. Who cares? I don't let weirdos dictate what I got to do for my family to make sure that I have a business that's getting more out of my database than less. Okay? So everybody gets a listing alert, you guys. And if you don't know, just give them something generic in your area. They'll start looking at stuff, and then you can dial it in based on what they're looking at. Market reports, same thing. If you have an address and an email in our world, you are getting a market report from us. We know where you live and we can send it to you. You get it. We don't ask. Every once in a while, we have to apologize because somebody, again, gets irritated, but that's okay. there's lots of other people that will show up tomorrow on the market report so that I have a reason to call them now. By the way, they're 3 times more likely to list their house this year when they do that. Some of you guys buy leads, but here's what I'd tell you. Don't do it unless you have a database turnover rate at or below 3, because you're not going to be able to call. You can't even call what you have now. Why are you spending more money on leads? Watch and nurture scores. We don't buy more leads until we are following up with our long-term watch and our nurtures effectively. And if we're not, why would we buy more leads who don't buy today? By the way, internet leads don't buy today. They buy in 8 months, 12 months, 16 months. They end up in my database in nurture or watch. I should go call the internet leads that came in 8 months ago that I now have in watch. And once I call those, now I should go buy more leads. Website visitors, we got to call them when they show up. Like literally what you're doing when you say, I want to buy a lead, Monica, is you're saying, go find me somebody that kind of has their hand raised and is thinking about real estate. Those people are already in your database. Go call them first. Same with your market report viewers. This approach, again, at Brivity, and I could give this to Debbie. She could share it with everybody, even if you're not Brivity, this kind of methodology of working down the database top to bottom from the most likely person to be an appointment today. That's my hot leads. Like, you guys already identified them as likely to want to meet with you. Now you just got to figure out what to say to get them to do the buyer consultation. But I'd start with my hots. Then I'm going into my hand raisers, my website visitors, and my market report viewers. Right? Then I'm going to work what's next, my past clients, and then I'm going to work my nurtures, and then I'm going to move down in a methodology that says the next phone call I make in my business is the most likely one to be an appointment. I'm not just going to blindly call in here. But if I don't intentionally work this thing, I will grab fractions of the available business. If I have a methodology and I'm consistent, you could be Katie Centinella. We have people in our world pulling 90 to 100% of the business out. They are very methodical about what they do. And here's the second thing you can do. And Debbie, you'll laugh at this, because when I got into real estate, Debbie mentioned it was like Rolodexes. I was at the very end of a book, right? You held a book. And the listings came out in the book. And every week the new book came out, Debbie, right? But there was a new entrant into the tech world back then. It was called Top Producer.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I was one of the first purchasers.
100%, right? Like anybody that was like on the cutting edge back in 1999 or 2000, like we got Top Producer, right? Well, they had this function in there, reminders or tasks. And it used to be, Debbie, it's like you'd take your Rolodex, you'd call them, you'd put them in the back of the Rolodex, and when they made their way to the front, you'd call them again. But with Top Producer, we could actually talk to somebody and then say, you know what? I'm going to call you in 2 months because you seem a little bit closer than the guy I talked to earlier who I said I'm going to call in 4 months. And I could start to plot out in my database when I wanted to reach out to people next.
I loved it. It was like heaven compared to trying to file them in a box or just remember.
So people that never had the experience of having to do it before don't realize how groundbreaking that was at the time. But 25 years later, we've got all these other bells and whistles to the point where almost nobody uses reminders in their database anymore. But when we studied the data, what it says is the higher percentage of your Mets. So you think about your database, who's your Mets? My hots, my watches, my nurtures, and my past clients. Those tend to be where the Mets sit. What percentage of them do you have intentional follow-up with? And when all of you guys be honest and go look in your database, what you'll find is it's very, very low percentages. 5%, 3%. I don't have any reminders set up on my nurtures. When do they expect they'll hear from you next? If you don't have any mechanism in place to follow up with them, surely they don't have any expectation of ever hearing from you because you never told them you're going to do it. And if you did tell them, how the heck do you do it? This is number 2, right behind calling. This data point blares out. Now, it's unicorn behavior though, Debbie. Most agents don't do it this way. They just get in the database, they make the call, the person answers or doesn't matter. I just move to the next lead. I don't never set up what my plan is for that last lead. The data for years has screamed, this is how you do it. Debbie, I was out with Nick Waldner. You know our friend Nick. He's
Oh
out
yeah,
in Columbia County,
he's
Maryland.
been on with us as a guest. Actually,
Awesome. I bet he was talking about reviews because
he
he's a
was.
master at reviews.
Yes.
He had an agent on his team come up to me, Ryan Bendall, and Ryan said, hey, and I didn't know this guy. He just walked up to me. We're in their office. We're doing some training. He says, are you guys going to move all my old reminders from the last system into Brivity? We were just bringing them into Brivity. And I said, yeah. How many you got? And he said, I have 1,600. And I was like, well, how many are overdue? Because I've seen a lot of databases, Debbie. Most reminders are overdue, right? And so he goes, he was offended. I asked. He's like, none. Like he couldn't even contemplate what I was saying. He's like, none. He's like, I did them this morning. I've got like 5 that I haven't gotten to today, but I'll get to them right after I leave the office. He's like, this is how I run my business. And I'm like, well, how many leads do you have? He goes, I have 2,000 leads in my name. 1,600 of them are Mets, 400 are unqualified, but every one of my Mets has a reminder. And in my head, I'm thinking, this is the unicorn the data has been telling me it has a big business, but I don't know this guy. So I immediately go hunt Nick Waldner down. I'm like, who's that guy in the corner over there? And he goes, that's Ryan Bendall. Why? I said, how many deals does he do a year? He said, he's like a 75 to 80 deal a year agent. He's our top agent. When you do the math on that, you guys, if you were to look at 1,600 Mets at a 65% home ownership rate, he has 1,040 homeowners. If they move every 13 years, there's 80 transactions in his database. He gets every single one of them. Why, Debbie? Because when he talks to people, he tells them when he's going to follow up with them next, and then he sets a reminder and he goes and does it. This is simple stuff. This has been in our CRM since 2000. But we got all these bells and whistles and market reports and drips and all this stuff. But actually leveraging a piece of tech that's been there for 25 years for you is like the second way to get the business behind calling them. I'm going to blast through these really quick. Be consistent. There's no magic pill in here, but consistency is as close as you're going to get to a magic pill. And here's what I mean by that. If you burst into your work, your job, and you make like the 150 calls and then you don't do it for 2 weeks, you would have been better off making 30 calls a day for 5 days. We've studied this really extensively in the last year as we've been doing these challenges of which you're familiar, Debbie. The agents that make 50 calls a day do way better than the agent that comes in and goes, I'm behind. I'm just going to make 500 calls today. No, be consistent. That's as close as you'll get to a secret weapon. Fully engage your interested hand raisers. I got somebody that's on my website and they said they'd like to go see a property. I'm not going to call them once. I'm going to call, then I'm going to text. I'm going to call them back an hour later, Debbie. I'm going to text them again. I'm going to call them again the next morning. Like fully engage them, probably more than you're comfortable with. Like some of you guys are, right,
This
Debbie?
is the one. This is the one. I was just on with an awesome group the other day, and they admitted that they actually said, I only call a lead 3 times. And I talked to them about an MIT study, which you alluded to the data, that 50% of leads are never contacted. The majority of the rest are contacted 2 to 3 times. But the magic conversion number is somewhere between 6 to 12 attempts. I think you picked 11, right? Which is right in there. And I asked them why. And they said, well, I don't want to be a stalker. I said, gosh, it's a fine line between being aggressive and consistent with your follow-up and being a stalker. And you gotta walk the line. You know, the old sales trainer, Zig Ziglar, used to say, timid salespeople have skinny kids. And Bob, sometimes we make up these stories in our head of why they're not calling us back. And I'll give you a perfect example, guys. My husband, who you know is still in the business 30 plus years, a great past client, called him out a couple of months ago. We're going to list our house. We got to get some things done, got some life stuff. We'll call you in a couple of weeks. They didn't call. He had his reminder. You know, he uses Brivity. He had his reminder set, came up. He called them, nothing. He texted them, nothing. Called them again, nothing. Stopped by their house. They weren't home. And he said to me, you know, gosh, I'm kind of offended. Like they had me over, we had a great relationship. They said they'd call me in 2 weeks. And he said, I said, you know what I'm going to tell you. Keep following up. Which he did over a period of a couple of months. Lo and behold, I was completely thrilled and vindicated that we're driving on the weekend. He gets a call. He's like, it's them. And you know what they said? To your point earlier, they said, hey, thank you for all of your follow-ups. We really appreciate it. Sorry we didn't call you back. We just weren't ready yet, but we are now. Can you come over tomorrow and list the house? But see, he had created this story. They don't like me. They called somebody else. They're ditching me. They're dodging me. And to your point, they didn't pick up, but they saw his attempts and they appreciated it. Take it out of the real estate business, guys. Have you ever got to buy some kind of high ticket item or engage somebody's services that are expensive for something in your home, and they don't even follow up? Like, you talk to them about it, you actually are interested, but then they never, ever, ever follow up with you. So they might be thinking, well, if they want me, they can call me. That's not how it works, right? And you're thinking they're not even interested in me. So, Bob, we are going to take this recording. We are going to send it to everyone. They'll get it tomorrow. And I really want them to think about this one. Call it that creepy feeling where you're like, ugh, should I call him one more time? Yes. Call him one more time.
Debbie, thank you for having me here today. I'll this is probably normally you do this, but I'll do this for you. If you are somebody that is not in coaching, I struggle to know how you're going to get to where you want to go when you've never been there. So what I would suggest is that you shoot that QR code. You guys get a complimentary strategy session with Debbie. Get yourself a coach. If you're trying to go somewhere you've never been, it's so much easier to work with somebody that's been there. And all of Debbie's coaches have a massive number of years of experience. They've all been to where you want to go. And Debbie does a really great job of matching you up with somebody that can make sure to show you the path to where they've been that you're looking to go. So, Debbie, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it today.
And Bob, I think to your point, it's like sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees, or people will say, I know what I need to do. Like, a lot of you knew some of this stuff today, right? But maybe there's a new commitment now to take an action, or maybe there were 2 or 3, I hope, awesome takeaways. Like, hey, why wouldn't I call people that are raising their hand and engaging? And then, Bob, the accountability around it, right? Because we all get lazy. It's just natural. It's normal. It's human. How do they, if they've decided that Brivity is interesting to them and they'd like to get a demo, how do they do that?
They can just go to brivity.com
and there's look at the spelling, right? The spelling on your hat. Yeah.
brivity.com. And there's a big old demo button on there they can click, and they'll get put with somebody awesome like Connor or Jake or one of the team back there that can walk them through and answer all the questions. And same thing. Debbie's no obligations if you do your strategy call, run a demo, no obligations, obviously. But our team would love to partner with you in 2026 if you're looking for leverage inside your database. Again, a lot of the tools you guys are using likely has many of the things that I talked about today. But if you want a really simple playbook, I'll leave them with this, Debbie. Guys, real estate is not easy. So this is hard work that you guys are doing every day. But there's a simple formula for how to grow your business and be successful. And I really feel like here at Brivity, we've cracked the code on what that is. It still requires you to show up and do the hard work, right? Of calling these people and knowing what to say. But there's a simple path to get to whatever you're looking to do in 2026. Thanks, Debbie.
And I would suggest if they have a CRM and maybe they're not happy or they don't think it does all of these things, when they meet with, one of the team at Brivity, just tell them, this is the CRM I have. How does Brivity compare? Same thing here. If you said, hey, I'm interviewing X coaching company, how does Forward compare? I think that's smart. That's good business. And we want you guys to do, what's right for you. So, they're awesome. You'll like them. And yes, there is a recording. Marcia, just give it one day. So just know, guys, anytime you see an awesome webinar topic and you think, I have a conflict, I can't be on that webinar, please, we like you to be here live because then I know you're paying attention and you'll learn something. However, go ahead and register, because when you register, that triggers in the CRM our reminder to send you a copy of the recording. So if you can't come here live, please register. And also, always please feel free to share the link or to share the recording. And Marcia, I really appreciate you sharing that, and let us know if you have any questions. Bob, thank you.
Debbie, I hope I delivered on your, that wasn't boring. You told them earlier it wasn't going to be, okay.
You're never boring. Yes, Bob makes tech not boring. All right, guys, hey, I hope you leave encouraged that it is plug and play if you just learn how to do it and then you follow the system. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Thanks, Bob.
Bye, Debbie. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.